My name is Tyree Robinson. Hi, guys. I am a senior musical theater major. And Paula, yesterday you spoke a little bit about transmedia brands. And I'm wondering if there is any room right now for young artists to come in and create both artistic and profitable new brands, and where those ideas might lie. Things that can be mass kind of distributed.
I hope so. We need new brands. Please do. How many Barbies the movie can we see? I'm being facetious, but really, of course. There's new worlds open in that, and please, there is time for new brands. Now it's a little difficult to create a new brand because it's so expensive to market movies. But please do. Start with the theater. The areas where things kind of emanate from are, and I ran into 2 Carnegie Mellon graduates who were writing graphic novels, and they set shop up at Comic-Con. You all know about Comic-Con. And they were writing graphic novels. I don't know what program they were in, but I just remember they went to Carnegie Mellon. And so you have other areas while you are looking to write the great screenplay or the great play or all the various things. The video game business is exploding right now in many ways. And there always need writers. Animated features need writers, directors, actor voices, I guess. But all these worlds, you have publishing, there could be webisodes. I don't know how you do webisodes and monetize them. Stephen could speak to that even better than I. I don't know how you do it, but somebody should discover it. If you want to come out of school and do things and be a little lofty for a moment and not talk about the pragmatics of it, just so you know, P.S., my first job out of Carnegie Mellon when I needed to make a little bit of money was going to work at John Robert Powers for $5 an hour while I was going on acting auditions, and I was able to, I told them I was 24, I was actually 21, because you had to be older, and they assigned me to teach a class called Bras and Girdles. Yeah. That was my first job. I had that job for a couple of weeks, but write a screenplay. You all have ideas. Go write screenplays. Write plays. Create a video game. Tell us how to solve the problem of piracy. You create, if you can create a system that can stop piracy, I'm being half facetious here, you will have buildings named after you on this campus. Or any campus. I mean...
specific to you, sir, as a musician, I think music is artistic heroin. It's the fastest, most direct way into the bloodstream of culture in the world that we live in. And you're a musician. Figure that out. How to use music to create some kind of a brand, because music is such a young person's world, and you're a young person. So go work with that, It's just the fact that your training is musical theater doesn't mean that you can't kind of do one or the other at any given time.
So yes.
Hunter. The answer was yes.
Yes, go get it.
Hunter.
Hi, I'm Hunter Seagroves. I'm a senior acting student. And my question is somewhat multi-layered, and I'd like to ask it on behalf of the rest of my classmates and the third-year grad students, all of us who are about to break into this industry. And I was wondering, because obviously we're the only ones we can be immediately responsible for all the times is ourselves, being prepared and staying tenacious. But I was wondering, a lot of the senior actors will be looking for representation at the end of the year, and if we're fortunate enough to get managers and agents and stuff like that. And I know that Hollywood is populated by a lot of different types of people, and I wondered if you could speak to maybe give us some advice of developing a savvy for judging people's character, and also the types of agents and agencies that you two like to work with professionally, so we know. I obviously there are wonderful little boutique agencies, and what are the benefits to working with that, or some of the larger, more corporate agencies, and just talk a little bit about your experiences with that and what we can look for in order to surround ourselves with the right types of people.
I'll give you one quick answer, and I won't speak on Paula's behalf, but I'll extend this to all of you. If you get out there and you have any question about somebody who wants to represent you, call me. And if I can't give you some, informed input about that, I'll get you to somebody who can.
You'll call me.
I'll call her.
No.
Or I'll call Junie, Lowry Johnson, and I'll say, Hunter called me, and some guy by the name of Sam Suppository wants to represent him. Who is that guy, and is he legit? So call me.
It opens up a very good question, a very good topic, though, on the role of the alumni and the strength of the alumni. And would you like to just comment on that a bit, Paula?
Well, I think the networking, and I believe there is one, but it's something that you all should look into to even strengthen. There are to create almost an alumni bureau. Where you come out, so you go out to LA, and there you are, you got your suitcase, and you stand there. And did anybody see Rock of Ages on Broadway? The girl that comes from Kansas, and she arrives on Sunset Boulevard, puts her suitcase down, and ends up going into all the wrong places and all the wrong people, that kind of classic. There should be, and I think there is, an alumni association where you can call up and ask any of those questions. You have access to Screen Actors Guild. A proper, reputable agent will be franchised through the guild. So you just call the guild and go, is Sam, your bud there, the guy you're talking about, is he registered? And they go, no, we don't have a Sam, whatever. That's that. I know. And the I think agents, it's pretty easy to check them out. Managers is a little, and there are a lot of really good managers, and managers have become more of a necessary evil. How do you get the validity? Because managers can charge you anything. Agents can charge you only 10%. And you only pay an agent when they get you a job. And if they never get you a job, you never pay them. Managers, same thing. I wouldn't pay any manager more than 10%, just FYI. Negotiate. Everything is negotiable. So use your negotiating skills, and check it out. Go online and check, there's a lot of online sites that will lead you to managers, agents. There are sites where you can register as actors, and that are legitimate. That's what the learning process is, because it's constantly changing. Someone who was a shyster in my day, might not even be in the business now. And so new shysters turn up every day. So you just want to be very careful, and you're smart. You have good instincts about people. You are trained actors, so you can look in people's eyes and you can see, are they honest? Are they telling the truth? Are they looking down to the floor? I had a production manager in Prague on a movie who would not look me in the eye as he was telling me how much money it was going to cost, and suddenly he couldn't speak English as well, and he would not look me in the eye. And I said to my line producer, there was something about this gentleman, he would not look me in the eye. We discovered he was cooking the books. So, there are those little signs and things, and for young ladies also be aware, be skeptical and be aware. And young gentlemen, all of you, be aware of what people ask of you. You don't need that job so badly that you'll do anything to get the job. Do not ever be desperate, particularly with your background. There is a place for each and every one of you. I'm about to burst into song now.
There's no business.
That's great advice. That's great advice.
Nick.
Great. Hi, my name's Nick Ducasi. I'm a senior actor here. And over the last few days, we've heard and we've talked about and read about all of your wild successes. And that's what we're, and the world's going to remember you by. And I was wondering, we as young actors, we're about to graduate and go out there, and they always say the road to success is paved with slip-ups and times that you fall down and you have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and go at it again. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you personally have kind of encountered those slip-ups, and then as producers and writers have gone about, getting people to then buy into your idea and your passion again after that, and just a little bit about what it is to, is it just putting all of yourself and all of your passion behind something, or is it what, That's my question.
Well, first of all, kudos to you for figuring out the mic problem. So you already have a little bit of initiative there. For me, at my end, looking at you through my end of the telescope, you have, before you earn that success, you have to earn credibility. Credibility is an incremental process that earns you the trust of people like Paula Wagner or Stephen Bochco or John Wells or Peter or anybody, and it usually requires you to be doing things that you may think you're better than, but if you do them that way, you won't get the credibility to do the next thing. What's that hoary old cliche? There are no small parts. There are only small actors. You do that small part with as much commitment as you would do the bigger part you thought you should have had, and that gets noticed. And then you say, okay, that's a professional person, and you earn that credibility. And over time, a lot of it also is beyond your control. How old are you, sir? 21. You can't get from 21 to 30 without passing through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You just can't. And part of the reality that young artists face is a perceived lack of maturity. It's a little easier for actors because you can go read for the role of a 21-year-old. It's a little more problematic for writers, directors, designers, producers, because we're all looking for execution. We're all interested in talent, but in fact, when you're spending $100 million on a movie, what you're really looking for is execution. You want somebody that you can rely on to do that job so that you don't have to constantly look over that person's shoulder. And that comes with some time and some experience. And, you know, those are the slips and stumbles along the way that inform, you know, your career and give you the maturity level so that at a certain point, I'll say, you know what, I can trust this person to do this job. You've earned it. So it's a journey.
Paula.
You know, there are times when there's a learning curve, and there are times when there is no margin for error. And that is something that you learn, and there are certain things you learn from pure experience. And allow yourself, if you, to be a learning person. I'm learning from the few days I've been here. I feel that I'm a more knowledgeable, wiser person from having been here with sharing time with you. You thought I was giving, I was getting something back. So everything is a learning experience, but you do need to have, I say the movie business is a business of rhythms. You're musical people. You hear the rhythm of something. There's a language that's spoken, so speak the language. It has a lilt, it has a movement, it has dynamics. Know when to push, know when to pull, know when to step forward, know when to move back. A lot of this, it's like getting in the ring and kind of knowing where your opponent is and how to move. It's sports analogies. I use sports analogies all the time in business, and I don't even know sports that well. And I use it and talk about that home run. It was a home run. You know, he got up to bat and that kind of stuff, you know. That's a kind of guy talk, and you kind of, as a woman, once in a while, you got to have a little bit of guy talk in there. You know, I got past the 50-yard line. But it sounds good. It sounds like I really know what I'm talking about. But it's rhythm. So there are times when you're making a movie, say, there is no margin for error, none. And if you don't go to home base, you don't get there, you're out. So, and then there are times there's a little learning curve. I supported a client who was a film director. I was an agent at the time, but really passionately helped him put this film together. I thought it was just interesting, and it was taking all kinds of chances. It was really the wrong time, format, financial world to be trying something. It was called Arizona Dreaming. So the cast was like this crazy cast. Jerry Lewis, Johnny Depp, Faye Dunaway were the three leads. Now, for starters, there's something very incongruous about that. Now, it might work, but it was pretty crazy. The film was never in English, even though it was all shot in America. It was in Alaska, in an igloo where they spoke Eskimo language. And then it was at a border town in Arizona Dreaming, where they started speaking Spanish. Actually, I think there was a little bit of, and there was a little bit of English spoken after that. It was a used car salesman who was trying to travel across country. And the director was a then Yugoslavian director who didn't speak English. So nobody on the crew spoke anybody else's language because it was produced by a French producer who also didn't speak English. Well, need I say it was a recipe for disaster? I should have known better. It was a mistake. I'm sorry. But I learned. I learned from that. So yes, it is paved. The gold is on that pavement, but underneath those gold things is a few pieces of gravel lurking there, and you just learn. As an actor, I can remember auditions that I walked in and literally stood there going, I am completely done. I am doing a horrible job here. I have blown it completely. They're looking at me like, this is not a good sign when you're auditioning. Thank you, thanks. Yeah, next. That's not a good sign. I had those experiences too, and I would go, what happened? Why did that happen? And I would always take your missteps or the wrong choices you make, look at them, analyze them, and then don't do them again. I have a rule of 3 in my office when people work with me. The first mistake, you can make it because you're learning. So let's sit and analyze. Why did you make the mistake? Was it communication? Was it you didn't hear me? You didn't know what we were talking about? Was it ignorance? What was it? Let's fix it. Okay? So that's the first time. If you make the same mistake a second time, then you have to say, wait a second. Am I not paying attention to myself, to others, to situations? Let's really get down, fix this so it never happens again. And if you make the mistake the third time, the same exact one, you're out. So the key is you're going to make mistakes. Just don't repeat them.
Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank Capello. I'm a senior acting major. Ever since my freshman year, I've noticed a kind of trend with the actors that have graduated from the program versus the split to New York and LA. And a lot of the actors who have initially gone to LA have, within 8 to 12 months, decided to switch and move back to New York. And now, speaking with some alumni, I've been hearing things along the lines of, if you're going to go to LA, really give it at least 2 to 3 years before you've decided to can it. So I was wondering if either of you could speak to the pace of each city, how they differ, what to expect, and how we should be tackling our lives and our careers in different ways, and what kind of variables there are going to be that will affect us in each city.
We actually talked about this an hour ago in our last session. Both Los Angeles and New York have thriving film and television communities. New York's is a little smaller, but it's active and it's doable. In the age of the internet, it's very easy to be in New York and be seen in LA. We put people on tape all the time, and then we download that stuff to casting sites, and and if we love somebody in New York and we want to meet them, hop on an airplane and we bring them out. So I think those initial choices aren't either or. Each coast has its own advantages and drawbacks, and a lot of it has to do with personal choices, personal needs. Maybe you have a relationship in New York that you want to maintain, so that'll influence your decision. Maybe the economics of New York work better for you versus the economics in LA, where you have to have a car, and those are all practical life choices. But I don't think you can make a wrong choice. Probably the only mistake in any of it is to leave either place that quickly, because then then actually it feels to me as if you've wasted 8 months, because I don't think that's long enough to really sink your roots a little bit and get develop relationships, get your network going. But there's a lot of back and forth, so I don't think you make a mistake going either place.
Stephen, can I ask you, when all the schools, people are graduating. Do you get word amongst the sort of agency community saying, oh, there's a really top person who's just coming out of NYU, or there's a top person or a great singer-dancer coming out of Carnegie Mellon? Do you hear that sort of chatter?
Generally not, unless it's in the context of a specific project we're doing.
Yeah.
But I don't, as a matter of course, get those annual phone calls about, oh, you've got to meet this person or meet that person, or somebody really special is coming out. The volume of traffic coming out of schools is so huge that it's hard to,
What about you,
cherry pick.
Paula?
No, I don't really, because a casting director might hear that. I'll give you a couple of my thoughts that are maybe a little more off the beaten track than you might hear from kind of straight down the middle reasoning and logic. But I think you young talent are going out into a more interesting world, but a more difficult world, in the sense that people are looking for what's new and fresh and hot and young, and let's make it happen, and let's go there quick fix, quick. Let's make a lot of money and get in, get out. And I don't think there's a concentration of, when I was an agent, on building talent and building careers. So that's your responsibility. You really have to learn how to be your own agent. Mm-hmm. And I became such a good agent for myself that that's what I became. But you really do, in a way, because nobody else is going to care about you as much as you would like. It's why when I became an agent, I became the agent I always wanted as an actor, because you have to care the most about yourself. And take care of yourself. Go where you are the most comfortable. If that's regional theater, nothing wrong with that. Play a few leads. Get some confidence. Unless you think you are going to go to Hollywood and get the leads in movies, or series is going to be built around you, you're going to have the media is going to be right then and there, I would really develop your own instrument and your craft further. Your talents, your experience, your life. And unless, I have a theory about LA, and I've lived there now most of my life, but I did go to New York, and I did a quick fix stint in LA, and I too was one of the people that left, because it was a little overwhelming. It's all spread out, and there's no sense of community, and unless you really know LA, you know how to get around, you got a car, you got a place, you got it down, and you know where all the studios and where everything is, and you've got a network of friends, and you can go right into a theater group, and there's a lot of theater groups in LA now, by the way. A lot of people going out there. Unless you really got it down, have an agent, have a manager. I didn't go out to LA cold. I went out and immediately got an agent. First day I was there, I got an agent. I didn't get much else after that, but I certainly had an agent. So I did a bunch of television. I played a rebel space cadet. It was really one of my more glorious moments. If you are comfortable on the stage and you have an incredible musical theater training, I think there's a lot of action in New York, and you feel comfortable in New York, go there first, because as Stephen said, you're going to look in New York. Movies go to New York to cast. There's a lot of movies getting cast there. Ironically, there's a bunch of movies here in Pittsburgh that are casting. There's more movies being made in Pittsburgh right now than in Hollywood. So you have the luxury to go any place. Go to Chicago. There's some great theater coming out of Chicago. Be very pragmatic. You don't have to, it's a myth to think that you're going to run to Hollywood and be a star and that you have to be there. Be brought there with a purpose. Don't just go hang and figure you'll figure it out. I know a lot of people parking cars, waiting tables, bartending, who are actors in Hollywood. There are a lot of other jobs that people are doing there while they're looking for that track. So if you're an actor, Go where you can act. Act, 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 act. Put a theater group together. Make a play together. Do readings together. My company, my Carnegie Mellon graduates, we have readings of screenplays every couple of weeks. And I bring Carnegie people in and we read. And we talk through material. And we analyze it. And, you know, make your life, your business life, as creative as it can in terms of furthering what your own goals are.
That's great. Is that Molly? Who's next there?
Hi, I'm Gal Pratt, and I'm a director in my last year. And as a director, I find that a lot of the discussion having to do with what the procedure is when you get to LA has to do with presenting a product, whether it be yourself as an actor and your audition, or as a writer, your ideas and your scripts. As a director, I'm finding myself a little bit lost as to how I can introduce myself to that world, not just as someone who deserves a job, but also someone that has something to say as an artist. So I don't know if you have any advice for directors trying to break in.
Well, two things. I mean, somehow find a way to make a film. You know, if I'm looking for a new writer, I want to read stuff that writer's written. You're a director, you got to make a film. We don't do it that often, but we have hired people to direct off of a little independently made film, 12 minutes long, 15 minutes long. You need to have that calling card. In the alternative, you find entry-level jobs in production so that you can, you know, advance your education in ways that endear you to the community that you're working in, so that at some point people say, well, it's her turn, and you get that break because you've been in the environment doing other things and in the best sense, ingratiating yourself to the people who hire. Because they, you know, David Anspaugh, who became a very, very successful feature film, started out for us on Hill Street Blues as our location manager. And 2 years later, we gave him an opportunity to direct. And he was wonderful, you know, and his career took off from there. He made an investment of 2 years of getting in the environment, doing something else, so that he could work it from the inside. So I think those, and by the way, those are also not mutually exclusive tracks. Make a film and do that.
Molly.
Hi.
Oh.
I'm Molly McCurdy. I'm a senior dramaturg, which is a new program here at Carnegie Mellon. And I think we've been touted as chameleons. And I just wanted to know, as a researcher and someone who's there to strengthen not only my own ideas, but in a collaborative spirit, the ideas of others, and make sure that we all function as an autonomous group, where do you see the role of dramaturgs in your fields, and what kind of roles could we play? Because it hasn't really been laid out for us. It's like, you could do anything, but anything is anything. So.
I don't know. Tell me a little bit more about what this course of study is.
Dramaturgy, for me, I guess, as Doc would say, is the main dramaturgical question is, why this play now? You work with the directors and the designers and the actors and make sure that everyone's on the same conceptual page, making sure that if you're doing a new adaptation, why is this relevant to today's audience? And how can we really communicate the ideas within this text in the most succinct and interesting way? So it's a lot of research based and making sure that everyone's using the same language and that language is being articulated in a dramatic way. So, we have one of our graduates right now out in Hollywood. She has the blog Hollywood Dramaturg, and she talks about script doctoring or avenues like that, doing kind of research-based works.
What do you think?
I think you can do anything. I think that you serve a very valuable purpose, and there's a lot of things you can do, actually, and you're in a very good position. Research. Every movie that's made needs research. I have extensive research done on every project I do. So research. Story editors, readers, analyzers, assisting directors, producers, becoming a producer, and frankly, even though you may not have majored in writing, producing, or directing, any of those related fields, because particularly now, more so than ever, when you are when Hollywood, it seems to be reinventing the tried and true, reinvigorating the brand. If you're going to do that, and Broadway's doing it too, if you're going to do that, you need to know how it relates to the zeitgeist of the times here, of the moment, how it becomes culturally significant, why you choose to remake a movie or a play, and so working with small production companies, working with studios, going into the creative executive tract, going up all the way to heading up development of a studio. Hey, Sherry Lansing started in your position, more or less running development, and ended up being the first woman to run a studio. So you have a gateway to many different things. It's true. It's just you're starting with the written word and the story and the core of what the narrative, if you will, an narrative analyzer. And use the internet. That's a very good idea. Blogging, having a Hollywood blog. Bloggers, people pay attention to certain bloggers. So there's all kinds of...
What about producers even going to consulting firms to get some direction or ideas about what might be popular? What are the trends? Is that something that producers think about?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, producers are always looking for ideas.
Brian Grazer, who's a pal of ours, who's a very successful movie producer, he has a person who works for him who is his conduit to the world. It's kind of what you're talking about. Brian is this endlessly curious fellow. I mean, he always wants to meet and talk to an interesting person about something he doesn't know anything about. And he's always been that way. He's very tenacious about it. And so, given his world, with all the sort of tentacles he's got out there, he would be very interested in talking to somebody like you, because he does that. If I were in the movie business, I would be very interested. Less so in television. I'm not sure why I say that, except that my own sense is that I do most of that for myself. If I get an idea that I'm enamored of, as I start to do my own homework, I guess because ultimately I'm responsible for writing it, causing it to be written. I want to be that person who digs in and does all that stuff myself and gathers that expertise around me. But if I were more entrepreneurial, as Paula is, or someone like Brian is, I would be looking more towards the movie industry, I think, than television. And that's just a gut feeling of mine.
Gabe. Oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Catherine Urbanik. I'm a junior actress. And I was wondering if you guys could talk about some of the biggest obstacles that you've faced, whether it be on the craft side of things or the business side of things, and what you learned from those obstacles and how you overcame them.
You see, I have so many chapters in my narrative because we all have narratives. Our careers are in our lives. You said it as a writer, producer, creator, which is everybody has a story. Stephen has a wonderful way of phrasing things. I'm fascinated to, hear that. That's why your dialogue and your stories and characters are so fascinating. So I have many chapters. I have my acting days, I have my agent days, I have my movie days, my producing days. I've done so many different things. But obstacles that I faced, when I got out of Carnegie, I was really naive. I really didn't know anything about the business. And I had a view of the world that was not quite what it was. I perhaps, if going back to did you make a mistake, perhaps as opposed to going to New York or Hollywood, I should have gone into regional theater and really just taken everything I learned and let it solidify. Because you need that time to let everything kind of congeal and kind of get fixed in your unconscious in a way. So maybe going and practicing your craft. There are obstacles to practicing your craft. You have to get a job to do the thing that is your craft. And it's a chicken and egg syndrome of how do you get a job without an agent? How do you get an agent without a job? And it's really figuring it out and maneuvering the system to fit you. No two careers that I have ever worked with or handled were the same. None. There is no definitive path. That's why it's very hard to teach it. You can teach skills, but you can't teach the specifics of somebody's career. Your career will have a very different dynamic than your career. And your career will take all kinds of fascinating turns that you'll be surprised about. The obstacles that you put in front of yourself are the worst kind. Look to yourselves first and don't get in your own way. Whether as an actor, a writer, writers get in their own way, directors get in their own way, and actors do. So first remove your own personal, professional obstacles from yourself. That is my first and foremost major piece of advice about obstacles. How do you overcome get in your own way? Be willing to confront how you do it and change it and just not do it, whatever it is. And we all have those things we do that, walking in a room and clutching in an interview and showing your worst side instead of your best and sitting down saying, why do I do that to myself? That was something I had to cope with. So that's going up and reading. And I was a terrific actress, and I'd audition and I'd clutch. Why? And finally, when I overcame that, I did something else. So, and the second thing is to look at the obstacles that people put in front of you and be strategic in an analytical way. Look at how you can move them out of the way. But if they are cement roadblocks, don't keep going at that roadblock because you're not going to move through it. Go around it. The shortest distance between 2 points is not always a straight line. I know that's what you're taught. But it's not, in this business, not always a straight line. Sometimes that circuitous route out and around brings you past the obstacle. So think, be strategic. Don't get in your own way. Don't let other people get in your way. And if you hit a wall, know that you've hit a wall. And either climb over it, go around it, but don't just keep hitting your head against the wall.
But you know, most people won't tell you when you make a mistake. Because most people don't care enough. And sometimes you're not self-observant enough to analyze objectively your own behavior. And it doesn't hurt to have somebody in your life, whether it's a trusted friend or a therapist, if you can afford that, I'm serious, to monitor your behavior in a way that helps you to moderate, adjust your behavior so that you don't provide those self-imposed obstacles that too often you may not even be aware of. Anecdotally, by way of example, years ago, I had an actor who came in to audition for a role, and he came in and he said, "I can't play this role." I said, "Why not?" He said, I don't like what the role represents. I have real deep philosophical issues with the point of view of the story. And well, what did you come in for? You just wasted 10 minutes of my time telling me why you shouldn't be here. How about just, thanks for the opportunity, not available, move on. That's a behavioral roadblock that's self-imposed. I never told that guy that. I didn't care enough. I doubt if he had anybody else in his life who would have told him that, and clearly he wasn't seeing it himself, or he never would have done it. So,
that reminds me, if I could give you a quick story. There's a very, very well-known actor. I won't say the name because you'll all know who he is. And when I was at Creative Artists Agency, this didn't happen to me, it happened to one of my colleagues. Called him up and said, "Guess what? Mr. Major Director just offered you the lead in this film." And the pause, and the actor said, "But I didn't read for it." And he said, "No, I know, isn't that great? You just got offered the part." He said, No, but I didn't read for it." He said, "No, but that's the great thing. You already have the part, now we just negotiate the deal." No, I want to read. No, you don't need to. No, I won't do the part unless I read for the director. I have to read for the director. Big argument ensued. "No, but you have it, don't do..." "No, I want the part, but I want to read for it and get it that way." I said, "Okay." Called the director up and said, "My client wants to read for you." The director says, "But he already has the part." "I'm sorry, he wants to read." "Okay, he wants you to make sure he's right for the part. You've just cast him." "Okay." He goes in, he reads. The director calls the agent right after and says, "I'm glad he came in and read because he's not right for the part. He didn't get the role." This is a true story.
Who it is.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello, my name is Sophia, and I'm a senior music theater major. And earlier, Ms. Wagner, you talked about luck and, catching it in front of you. How would you both define luck and creating our own luck once we get out there?
You said it earlier. Say it again.
What did I say? I don't know.
You don't remember what you said?
I don't.
You,
You say it. You said it. You said it very well.
well, luck is the residue of design. You work your butt off so that you actually are able to identify what luck is. And when you've worked your butt off and you can identify it as that crack in the door, you know, you go through it because you have the confidence of your training. Everybody gets lucky, just like everybody gets bad breaks. Not much you can do about a bad break except haul yourself up and keep on trucking. But also everybody gets some luck coming their way. And it's only really luck in retrospect if you were ready to exploit it. My guess is that all of us have had lucky opportunities that we just blew, you know, because either we didn't realize what it was at the time and we only realize it in retrospect, or we saw the opportunity, but we weren't ready. It's like your assistant coming in, your would-be assistant. You know, what a lucky break to get to see Paula Wagner and then to not be prepared to answer, you know, basic 101 questions about your knowledge of the industry. You know, that's not taking advantage of your lucky break.
Again, an example that might be considered luck. I started as an agent at a small agency. And I was so fearless, I didn't know any better. This is where ignorance is sometimes really, it is bliss. It can be. Because I would just call heads of studios. What did I know? I didn't know the pecking order. I really didn't understand business. I just had a lot of energy and passion for my clients. They were the best actors in the world, and I was going to get them all jobs and make big deals for them. And I'd just call anybody that I thought would listen to me, and got myself into every studio, met all the studio heads, got onto the lots of, and I'm blithely going along and calling up Sherry Lansing. Hi, it's Paula Wagner. Who? No, I'm an agent at so-and-so, and I'd like to come in and meet you and talk to you about my clients. They were so taken aback that I always got in the door. And one day I decided I was going to start signing writers. And I started pursuing like well-known writers, and I was pursuing a very well-known writer at the time. And this writer was kind of like, you're this, nobody knows who you are in a little agency. I have this big deal agency called Creative Artist, and a big deal agent named Fred Spector pursuing me at Creative Artist Agency. And I said, I don't care. Look what I can offer. This is what I have going for me, blah, blah, blah. And CAA, big agency. You don't get the personal attention. You don't get this. And I worked, and he almost signed with me, but he didn't because he wanted the big agency. So a couple days later, I get a call from a man named Fred Spector at CAA who says, I heard about you because I just signed this big-time writer. But he said the only reason he signed was because of the big agency behind them, because he almost signed with you. And we're looking for a female agent. And those were in the days, they called them female. You were female something or male something. And we want to bring in a female agent. Would you come in and meet us? And I'm like, who? Creative Artists Agency? I don't, And I'm sure, why not? And I started researching it. I started looking up this guy who was running it called Michael Ovitz, and who was he, and Fred Spector, who was he, and there was a guy there named Rick Nacita, who was a very well-known, he's my husband now, a very well-known agent someplace. I started analyzing all this, and I said, sure, I'll come in and meet with you. The rest was history. I became the first female agent hired at CAA. Now, I guess you could say that was a lucky break, because I've had people say to me, God, how lucky. But it kind of was something that grew out of something that I was doing that put me in the right place to get that luck my way.
Here's a lucky. Here's an anecdote about making your own lucky break, because there's also some risk, you know, which is sort of the other side of the luck coin, I think. In 1964, I was a sophomore, and a Hollywood producer by the name of Sam Goldwyn Jr. was on a tour of campuses around the country promoting a small film that he'd made called The Young Lovers. And I think it was with Peter Fonda, and I don't remember who the young actress was. And it was an opportunity, just like, you know, we're sort of here today. It was an opportunity to see the movie, and then we would get an opportunity to have a question and answer session with Sam Goldwyn Jr., and it was in the little studio theater, which sat about 80 people, something like that. So I was sitting in the first row, and after the movie, Q&A, and I raised my hand, and he called on me, and I said, Mr. Goldwyn, why is it that Hollywood seems to always be making, you know, adaptations of novels or plays or whatever, and that there aren't as many original stories and screenplays? He said, well, we love original material, we just don't get enough of it, so we do, you know, we take it where we can find it. So I took a manila envelope that I brought with me, and I held it up to him, and I said, here. And he recoiled as if, you know, he said, oh, we can't take it because, you know, it creates legal problems and getting accused of theft and whatever. And, you know, okay. There was nothing in the envelope. I don't know what possessed me to do that. If he had taken the envelope, I would have been the biggest schmuck in America. But as it is, he didn't. And then that summer, I went out to Los Angeles with my girlfriend, and I slept on my sister's couch. She was a young actress in Hollywood. And the first day I was there, I called Sam Goldwyn Jr. And I said, I don't know if you remember me, but I was that schmuck at Carnegie Tech, you know, who tried to hand you, oh yeah, sure. I don't know whether he really remembered or not. I said, I'm here for the summer and I'm looking for a summer job. Could I come and see you? He said, okay, sure. And I went over right then and there. And I talked my way into a summer job with Sam Goldwyn Jr. It was my first job in the business. And he actually asked me to stay. And I wound up leaving school for a little while, and I stayed 8 months before I came back to finish. So that was a situation where I took a real risk, but I created an opportunity to get in the door because I'd done something a little brash.
Yeah. Gabe.
Hi, my name is Gabriel King. I'm a senior actor. We've been talking a lot about breaking into the industry and getting your foot in the door. What I was curious about, Mr. Bochco, you spoke in the last talk about Mark Paul Gosselaar and how you kind of had him in mind the whole time for raising the bar. And I was curious what you've seen from actors to kind of make them the mainstays or give them extended careers or make them more than just the talent. What are you seeing from people that might make them your muse or something like that that goes beyond just the everyday actor?
Well, that's a very, you know, there's an objective part of it, which is all the observable things of somebody with real talent and somebody who is collaborative and works well in the ensemble community of a television series. And then there's just an intangible thing. It's like, I mean, it's almost impossible. Why do you fall in love with somebody? I don't know. You know, I'm in love. You know, there's some connection. I mean, I don't know why Michael Tucker and I were bonded so instantly as freshmen here, and remained absolutely lifelong friends, and have worked together many times. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just, it happens.
Yes.
Hi, my name is John Mark. I'm a freshman designer. My question is, Carnegie Mellon, they have a limited number of options for programs you can take within this realm of drama. If you were interested in something, say, producing, what steps would you recommend taking within school and when you get out into the real world as a designer, to be able to step into that kind of a different realm?
Well, you can, actually, and a lot of people do. You find out that film producers, have done and been everything. Yes, designers, directors, actors produce, writers produce, people who've come from business produce, venture capitalists produce. It really, unfortunately, producing is the one job, and I'm on the board to try to change this, that anybody can call themselves a producer. It's a job that's defined so many different ways by so many different avenues that you might go down. And it's probably one of the most demanding jobs in the film business. It used to be Samuel Goldwyn Sr. that the producers ran the show from top to bottom, and the director came on to direct the actual shooting, moving around, blocking, setting up the camera angles, and then the producer took the film back, cut it, edited. It's really now what television, I think it's much more like television. So what can you do? Well, first of all, do you want to produce films? Is that something that you have an interest in? I can't really address television because it's a different function. But for films, yeah, you should watch every film you can see. You should know film, how it's made. How do you translate a design from stage to film? I was talking about it earlier today. It's different. How do you translate that? Start with in your own backyard, as it were. No actors, no directors, no writers, no material. Have a good eye for material. Have a good technical sensibility. Have a little bit of the control freak. You want to put everything together and control it and handle it. Of course you can do that. That could be your path. But it will take opening yourself up to learning as much as you can about every aspect of the film business, and then going and you get an assisting job with someone. You go work on a film. There's a young designer who came out of Carnegie Mellon named Scott Chambliss, who started out with J.J. Abrams, and he's now designing big films. He designed Mission 3 for us. He designed Star Trek. He's a Carnegie Mellon design major from maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Well,
so yes, there's a
also, you're in a great theater institution here. Do it now. Yes. Pester all of these professors. Audit their classes. Broaden your horizons beyond just design. Sit in on some of the writing classes, and if they won't let you, pester them about it. Find out what plays they're reading, what books they're reading. See if you can audit an acting class. Use this incredible environment to your advantage.
I might say to you, as a designer myself, that's travelled a very odd path to end up here, is that I think a designer, and often technical support for any production, gets unlimited access and very unique access to seeing everybody work. It's very rare that you ever get to see a director work. Actors get to see a director work on a certain play. A designer I've done 150 plays, I've seen 150 directors work. Very few people have seen that. Very few people have worked with management on advertising. Very few people have seen what the money is. But a designer is ideally placed, as is a technical director, as is a production manager. And I think if your ideas veer away from one silo, which I'd encourage everybody in the room to think about, this is the ideal place to do it. And a designer is ideally placed for it. Who's the next question? Hey, yeah.
Hello, my name is Abdiel Vivancos. I'm a sophomore musical theater major. And first I want to thank you both for coming and sharing time with us. My question stems from seeing some great alumni over the last year and a half speak to us and listen to us and wanting to listen more. So what are some practical ways that you've maintained and developed some professional relationships, and what would you urge us to do when we meet people like you?
You're doing it. You know, I think in every session that we've had over the last 2 days, Paul and I have opened our doors in a sense. Neither one of us is saying, "Oh, we'll give you a job," you know, but we are saying we will make ourselves accessible. If and as you get out there, you know, I just said over here, you know, call me. I'll tell you whether, you know, I'll find out for you whether that's a legitimate agent or manager, whatever it is. If I'm casting a show, you know, I'll set something up so you can come in and read for us. Maintain that, you know, take advantage of that. In the course of 4 years, I'm sure there are a lot of interesting professional people who come through the doors here to say hello and spend a day or two, as we are. Take advantage of those. You know, you have a network of friends here who are going to fan out all over the country. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. Maintain. It's so much easier to maintain relationships today than it was, you know, 40 years ago, 44 years ago, whenever it was that I graduated. You know, the internet, you know, email. You can stay connected to this community as it fans out all over America so easily. You don't have to write a letter. You don't have to lick a stamp. You don't have to pay $6 for a long-distance phone call. I mean, all those things, which 40 some odd years ago made it daunting in terms of maintaining relationships.
I'll just, if a couple of minutes, make a list of every alumni. We're going to get everybody's going to, you're going to call all the alumni.
Tell them Paula sent you.
Tell them Stephen Bochco said, call them, everybody. No, but make a list of all the key alumni in the areas that you're going to go into. Make a list. Make it methodical. Really sit down. In those moments when I was kind of my own agent, my own entrepreneur, my own everything, sit down every day and devote myself to what am I going to do today to further my career? And how am I going to do it? Okay, here's a list of every alumni that's in California or everybody that's in New York. And it's interesting, and you can network back with your former professors and teachers and talk to people. Did you know the person who created the Starbucks logo is a Carnegie Mellon graduate? I didn't know that either. I read about it. So there are some really interesting people. There are some writers in Hollywood on television shows, writer-producers. There's a guy who's a showrunner who graduated from Carnegie Mellon in biology or something, So there are some very interesting connections to be made. Make those connections. Number 2, be a decent human being. When somebody meets you and goes out of their way, email them, thanks a lot. Send them a note, send them an email. People love that. Think of the other person, just basic sensitivity to the other person, and that maintains your connections. Thank you for seeing me. Hope all is well. Or, you know, you had a great success with that. Congratulations. Just little things that maintain relationships. At the basis of Hollywood is relationships, because it's basically a very small town.
Fantastic. Well, I think we might have to draw to a close. It's just after 4 o'clock. I'd like to thank our guests very much. Just think, at the moment, you're sitting here looking at them, thinking they are very famous and celebrated people. I know that nothing will give them greater pleasure than doing the reverse and watching you on the screen, you on stage, watching you last night in Grapes of Wrath, doing the things that they do, looking out at you and seeing the talent that's going to emerge. You will be up on those screens in a couple of years. You will be on the Goodman stage. You will be on Broadway. And I'm sure it will give Paula and Stephen enormous pleasure to see you there.